Hey everyone, Mystical Mark here. So this will be your weekly astrology forecast for the week of March 16th through the 22nd of 2025. Before we get into the charts this week, how's everyone feeling from this eclipse? I've been a bit, feeling depressed, feeling a bit kind of not that great the past week, especially leading up to the eclipse. And even now, as I'm recording this video, I'm doing this later than I normally do. So anyways, let me know in the comments how everyone is feeling. I'm interested to see, how this is going for everyone. I know it's very chaotic out there in the world right now, but I've kind of mentioned that in previous videos that we were going to be in the midst of God knows what. So, yeah. Anyways, before we get into the chart for this week, if you are interested in getting a reading with me or supporting me through Ko-Fi, through donation membership, or joining the Discord server, any of that, all the links are in the description below if you're on YouTube and in my bio if you are on TikTok. And of course, one of the best, easiest ways in general, just to, of course, help me and support me, is to hit that like button, comment, subscribe if you're on YouTube, hit that follow button if you're on TikTok, as it helps the algorithm to push this video to more people. All right, and of course, as we get into the charts here, as I've always said before, anything regarding a future reference. So if there's something coming through intuitively, I get a lot of stuff through intuitively, so if something comes through intuitively regarding the future, remember that is and can be subject to change, all right? Simply because we all have free will. My guidance has and always likely will be, astrology is an energetic template conducive to certain things, meaning it reflects the natural cycles of the universe, the natural vibrations of those cycles, where we're at in those cycles, and they're conducive to certain things, hence how we relate it to the signs and their degrees, energy, all of that. Okay, so it's conducive to certain things, of course, but we still have free will within that. So things can change and shift. However, they are still likely to occur in relation to those energetic themes. All right. So with all that being said, let's jump into, I'm going to pull this up on my end here, jump into the chart for this week. So we'll start here on Sunday, the 16th. And on this day, we're going to have Jupiter here in sesqui-square to Black Moon Lilith in Libra. Now, for those of you that don't know, a sesqui-square is a minor aspect, although for me, minor aspects are not so minor, okay? They're just as there as all of the other aspects. I know a lot of astrologers tend to focus on major aspects, but I tend to focus on a lot of them, not all of the minor aspects, but more than just the major aspects, let's put it that way. Okay, so with this sesqui-square, this is like a super square, like a square and a half. All right, this is really pushing for resolution in some way and something that can no longer be swept under the rug. So with Jupiter and Gemini, this is like that expansion of communication or that expansion of awareness in a lot of ways, because Gemini is very communicative. It's the mind. It's bringing to our awareness in our heads maybe kind of what's going on. Jupiter is expanding that. It wants to expand. Jupiter rules Sagittarius. Jupiter is in its opposite sign here. It's expanding that mental awareness of what's going on, of what it's aspecting, right? So with this sesqui-square to Black Moon Lilith in Libra, where we've been outcast, and again, what I'm getting is injustice, okay? This can be in relationships and other things like that as well, but the main thing that was coming through was injustice, injustices. Something that's out of balance or heavily out of balance that shouldn't be, okay? But there's a huge awareness here right now, and with Jupiter here in conjunction to Uranus's north node, surrounding big shifts and changes and destabilization and that kind of stuff that is occurring. So you can take with what's happening in the world in terms of maybe waking people up in a lot of ways, in terms of, but we have to consider that, what we see isn't necessarily what it really is, right? But there's now this expansion of awareness, and maybe it had to happen a certain way in order to be able to actually wake people up to certain things, right? And again, that's that expansion of awareness that is occurring here and surrounding injustices, basically, where we've been outcast in that sense, but in terms of injustices, and that's out of balance as we're dealing with that sign of Libra. Right? So that sesqui-square is really strongly pushing and making that awareness come to the surface, come forth, right? Excuse me. So pay attention to that. So when I kind of burp or do something like that, it's usually the guides being like, pay attention to this. So very strongly pushing for that to come forth. Now remember, a sesqui square is like something that can't be swept under the rug any longer. It's being thrown in our face. Okay, it's like the shit hitting the fan, but you're looking at the fan while it happens and you're standing right underneath it and it's just all over you. Okay? Or it's like, you know, when people ignore the elephant in the room, well, now the elephant in the room is literally shitting on your face. All right, so this is something that can't be swept under the rug any longer. That expansion of awareness of those injustices and what's been going on. All right, and again, there are people and things in this world that would like to cover that up. Okay, so understand that, but it's getting more and more now that things are coming to light. All right, this expansion of awareness is coming through. A lot of stuff is being literally thrown in our faces and is completely chaotic. Okay, but in a lot of ways, this is for a good reason. As much as it, you know, may pain me to say that. Yeah. All right, but this, remember, these sesqui squares and these super squares, they also, with any square type of aspect, is pushing for resolution in some way. It doesn't necessarily have to mean that it's has to be experienced negatively, but if you're not getting the message, sometimes it has to push and push and push until it gets to that point, right? So, like I said, when these things happen, when these energies occur, it doesn't have to be bad, but sometimes in some ways it needs to be if you're not actually paying attention. If you're ignoring the universe is eventually going to throw it in your face and knock you on your ass. All right? If it's something that you really need to be made aware of, need to, you know, come into your awareness. All right? So, yeah. Okay, so that's Sunday, March 16th. Let's move on to Monday here, the 17th. Okay, so on Monday here, the 17th, is when we're going to have the Sun in conjunction here. It's not quite happening yet in this chart because I have this set to early morning. This is from previously when I did the eclipses. But when the Sun coming into exact conjunction with the North Node and opposition to the South Node. So now remember, what I said about this nodal configuration with South Node in Virgo, North Node in Pisces, is one thing I got is we don't know where the fuck we're going, because that's kind of Pisces energy, that fog, that we don't know where we're going. We're heading into the unknown, and I've said that before. And with South Node Virgo, what we've known and understood in the details and day-to-day, what has been practical is simply not going to fly anymore. It's not going to be practical anymore. That's what needs to be let go of. We need to step into the unknown. We need to, you know, walk a new path. It seems like, you know, just head into the unknown, right? And not fear it, right? It's this idea of like expansion, of change of perspective. But with Pisces, that perspective can be literally anything because there's no boundaries to Pisces, right? But it's that expansion of I was going to say awareness that, you know, maybe we experienced on Sunday, right? But we're heading into the unknown. We're moving into new territory. And we have to remember that this eclipse happened within, I don't remember the exact degree, but it was within a few degrees because we're only like, what, 1, 2, 3, 4 days beyond. So within 4 or 5 degrees maybe of this conjunction. So the Sun was conjunct to Saturn, or in between kind of Saturn and the North Node here during that eclipse. And that's why the closer to the nodal axis you are, the more total the eclipse, right? So that's why this was like a total lunar eclipse. So with this, though, that was highlighting that trajectory forward and what needed to be let go of and released. So all of the chaos and all the crazy bullshit in the world, we're in Mercury shadow, Venus is retrograde, Mars is post shadow. Okay, so there's all this and the insanity of the world. I mean, we're in Pisces season. Like the energy fits, okay? But we're heading into the unknown. We don't know what the fuck is going on. We have no idea where the hell we're going. But that's the point. Right? We need to let go of what we've deemed as practical. That expansion of awareness of injustices and awakening and all of that stuff. And awakening because Pluto's in Aquarius as well. That sudden realization of things. It's like, whoa, I didn't think this could happen. Oh, what the fuck is going on? Oh, right? And so we're heading into that new space now, and this is really beginning to highlight that, especially surrounding this eclipse season, highlighting that moment forward into the unknown, and that it's maybe not as scary as what we might realize or think that it is. But we need to trust and have faith. Anything regarding Pisces or that Neptunian fog aspect is trust and have faith. Because you have to remember, Neptune here at 29 degrees, or the North Node at 27, where the Sun will be, the Sun is moving into conjunction to Neptune at the same time here. So we have no fucking clue at this point. We have no fucking clue. You can't trust the media. You can't trust anything, any of the stuff that's out there. I mean, you know that shit's hitting the fan. You can feel it splash into your face, but you're like, where the hell is it coming from? What is going on? How do I deal with this? Do I need a pressure washer to clean this up? Like, is there more gonna happen? Like, what is going on? It's one day this happens, the next day this happens, and this. It's like, I don't know what. Like, but you just have to trust that we're in the midst of the fog. We don't know. We don't know. But what was once practical and what we knew isn't working. It's not here anymore. And that's what's being let go of. That's what you got. Move on from that. We need to head into the unknown, because eventually when we head on this path, we're going to be able to create what we want to create. Pisces is that very creative energy, remember? And this nodal configuration isn't ending anytime soon. Okay, we've just started this, and the nodes tend to stay in their respective signs for 18 months. All right, so this isn't going anywhere. Okay, so be prepared with that, I guess. Also on this day, we're going to have Mercury in retrograde now, in semi-square to Uranus. So there is an aspect of those changes. Something come through, the word value was coming through with this Taurus energy surrounding maybe identity and self, interestingly enough. But there's an aspect of change that is occurring there with that semi-square. There's a push for that. So maybe something of that may have come up during this pre-shadow of Mercury retrograde, and now it's kind of being there again, but they're surrounding that aspect of change. And with Taurus, it's also big shifts and changes. What I'm feeling is something surrounding aspects of value, whether that relates to money, whether that relates to value and self-worth, something like that coming through. Remember, Mercury, with Jupiter and Mercury sign, conjunct Uranus's North Node, there's a lot of changes and maybe awakenings and awareness coming through a lot of that stuff, through aspects of value that are waking us up to certain things, and maybe waking us up to the value of our own selves. Remember, Mercury is in Aries, so this retrograde, and I have talked about this, maybe like heightened anger, stuff like that, but this is now what I feel like is that surrounding our sense of self-identity, maybe even aspects of sovereignty. As an individual, of course, because that's Aries energy, but also, and a lot of things that are happening in the world, even like as nations, okay, as certain groups, right? When we hear of things, like certain countries wanting to be annexed, but it's like, what the fuck? Like, are you declaring war on us now? Like, what is going on? Why do you want to take us over? Okay, so there's this aspect of this sovereignty, of this independence. Now that's on more of like a socio-political, economic kind of scale, but on an individual scale, that's on us and our sovereignty. We have to remember Venus is retrograde as well in Aries, and I said before too that this was about balancing out, kind of related to that North Node Aries, South Node Libra, balancing out our individuality within relationships or within other people, right? Respecting our own individuality, but also respecting others, right? And that we need to respect each other's individuality. Are we able to be an individual within relationships, or are we constantly just shit on and put upon and forced to compromise into things that we don't want to compromise into? Right? You can be in a balanced relationship, but do your own individual things, but still want to be together, but still have that. And that's not necessarily in a romantic sense. That can be in a friendship sense. That could be in a coworker sense. That can be in any sense, right? Okay, sorry about that. I guess something kind of went wrong there, and OBS crashed. So I'm just going to get back into this now here again and continue talking what I was talking about here. I'm not sure exactly where I had left off, but it's surrounding this Aries energy. I know we were talking about Mercury retrograde there in semi-square to Uranus. Now, kind of dealing with, I know I said before that Mercury in Aries was dealing a lot with maybe like anger and stuff coming up, and that still could be it. But I feel like there's an aspect of self now. One thing that maybe felt was kind of like this defense of self. It's like almost being reborn in some kind of a way, because we're dealing a lot with retrogrades, and it's like those rewords, the reworking a lot of stuff. So with this Venus, Mercury, and it's in Mars's sign, and Mars is in post shadow. So Mars was retrograde, but it's still in the shadow period now after it's retrograde, right? So because of this, what Mars has gone through, and when I talked about this Mars retrograde, it was like this masculine having a good look at itself, right? So it's almost like this new masculine version of ourselves, okay? And we all have both divine masculine and divine feminine energy within all of us, all right? It doesn't matter, your sexual orientation, gender identity, or any of that. That is, of course, all still valid, right? But we have both energies within ourselves, within each other, okay? And with this was kind of a reworking of that. And in Cancer, of course, well, it was in Leo, then it's in Cancer. This is a lot of maybe the emotional expression of that. But maybe I feel like this is more of the expression from the heart in a lot of ways. And I think the feminine was helping to support the masculine and kind of to relook at and be reborn in this way, to come back into the heart, right? To express that masculine energy, but from a better perspective, from the heart, not from the negative bullshit masculine templates that the society has, manipulated us into believing were what it really was supposed to be when it's not. All right, the true masculine comes from its heart. The true masculine wants to fight for what's right, defend for what's right, that kind of thing, take action on what's right. However, as this Mars energy deals with Aries and this aspect of self and identity, it's almost like that masculine aspect within all of us, and taking charge of ourselves, that respect for ourselves, that standing up for ourselves, for our identity in that way. And that maybe that aspect of worth that was coming through here was through our own value and self-worth. Remember, Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius, which represents our uniqueness, right? How we're unique, or how we're different, our weirdness, right? But understanding the value in that, and maybe how that exists now on an individual level. Okay, and that expansion of awareness that is coming through with Jupiter in Mercury sign, Mercury retrograde in Aries, but Jupiter on Uranus's north node, moving in a new direction of the value of that worth. Remember, I've said Uranus and Taurus was seeing the value in change, because Aquarius is like that change, but Aquarius is also your weirdness, your uniqueness, your individuality, and seeing the value in that as well. So now we're seeing these energetic themes and how they're used, but they're just because it can mean kind of different things in a certain category, but we're shifting in terms of maybe its use in that sense, right? So it's not always going to mean the same thing all the time. Okay, so it's kind of like maybe this shift now. So initially maybe what I said about anger, defending, whatever, but now we've gotten into this masculine, maybe more proper masculine, new masculine expression with this Mars post shadow as we push forward. And that could be part of this heading into the unknown too, because we haven't really experienced that. But we're sick of the fucking bullshit. We need to move maybe where we don't understand and into the unknown, because that's got to be better than where we're at, right? So there's this aspect of re-looking, re-understanding, having a re-look, rebirth, reborn almost in a sense of this kind of energy. And this, of course, has happened over time. Like we've gone through certain things, and now we use the energy in this way, and now we're going to shift and use it in this way, right? So it's kind of like these shifts and changes, and like we're not on stable ground, right now in any way. I mean, you can look out into the world and just see that, right? But it's this malleable energy. Pisces is malleable energy. We have the Sun in Pisces conjunct Saturn, still in a bit of a conjunction there, right? And that's the dissolution of that malefic energy, but it's that making that structure malleable. Pisces is a mutable sign, which means changeable. It's malleable. Molding it into a different shape, changing that structure. I've talked about before with the river flowing through land, eroding, right? So it's that kind of thing, okay? So, and surrounding maybe aspects of self-identity, that kind of stuff. So a bit of a shift here. And it's almost like this has maybe occurred after this eclipse season because it's now highlighting their new path forward now with the Sun moving into direct conjunction with the North Node, etc. Right? So be aware of that. Okay, so let's move on now to Tuesday the 18th here. We don't have any kind of major aspects occurring here, so we'll move on to Wednesday the 19th. Wednesday the 19th, we're going to have Juno here in Sagittarius going to go retrograde. So again, Juno in Sagittarius dealing with any type of like contract, usually like partnerships or contracts. So partnerships, contracts, business contracts, could even be soul contracts, that kind of thing. In Sagittarius, this is the expansion of that. Maybe even the one thing I got was expansion of awareness of that because Jupiter, the ruler of Sagittarius, in Gemini. Okay, I'm verbing there, so the guide's saying pay attention to that. There's an expansion of awareness there in terms of those contracts, partnerships, etc. But now Juno is going retrograde in terms of that expansion to have a relook or a reworking of those things. So again, this can be on a socio-political economic scale. However, this can also be on an individual scale, on a personal scale, in terms of whatever those contracts or business contracts or partnerships are in our own lives. That could be committed partnerships in terms of romantic partnerships or marriages, etc. But it could also be other types of contracts as well. And now beginning to expand in those areas. Or expand in the awareness in those areas, and maybe very well expand on those contracts, whether it means adding something in, taking something out, reworking, but expanding it through that expansion of awareness in some way. Don't really know how else to word that or say that, to be honest. Also on this day, we're going to have the Sun here is going to be in quincunx to Black Moon Lilith in Libra. As well, the Sun will come into direct conjunction with Neptune. So now we're kind of, what I feel that this is seeing through the unknown, but seeing, because Pisces, Neptune is like that veil, it's what's hidden. So it's almost like we're now kind of seeing like through the unknown, like I said, in terms of what's hidden, maybe in terms of like what we need to integrate here, or the frustration that is occurring within injustices, what's been out of balance and been outcast in those kinds of ways. And that could directly relate to other people, right? But just in general, injustices and those kinds of things, and what needs to be integrated, what needs to be, it's like, okay, now we're kind of maybe stuff's coming up to the surface, because I remember even with like Mercury and Pisces, there could have been that expansion or communication of awareness in terms of what's been hidden, what's been hiding. But remember, this energy can be used in a nefarious way as well, in terms of continuing to try to cover things up through deception, right? But it can also be used to bring awareness to how we have been deceived, or what has been hiding behind that deception, right? And bringing to awareness what has been hidden. Okay, and there's a frustration here, something that needs to be integrated and looked at in some way in terms of what has been out of balance in terms of injustices, etc. Right? But now we're maybe beginning to really kind of see behind the veil, or come into our awareness, especially an intuitive awareness of maybe what the fuck has been really going on, and really wanting to move more into this unknown territory to be like, okay, what the fuck is going on here? Because it's not what we've been told. It's not what's been going on. It's not any of this. So what is it then? What is it? What is really causing this at this point in time? What's really going on? right? And when we begin to ask those questions is when we begin to lift the veil and to begin to see more of this stuff that has been hidden. And again, that expansion of awareness. And again, that could bring up that anger and stuff regarding the Mercury retrograde, blah, 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 etc. Okay, but again, that relates to our own identity as well. It's maybe what has been hidden and what has forced us into an identity that maybe wasn't ours. Right? And again, that relates to that masculine, forcing that masculine aspect, and that can include men as well, into something that wasn't actually them. Society forcing men into a template that wasn't actually allowing them to be their true, authentic expression of self. Okay? That is kind of one thing that has maybe come through with that Mars retrograde that needed to be reworked. And now that is coming up. However, it's not just directly with men as biological men, but that expression of masculine energy within all of us. All right? And a reworking and a re-understanding of a lot of that. Okay? And now seeing behind the veil, seeing through, like, it's kind of different, but also related to what that is. All right? Okay, so that is Wednesday the 19th. Let's move on to Thursday the 20th here. And of course, this is when we're going to have the vernal equinox, the March equinox, where we have the sun entering into Aries. Of course, it's not quite showing up here because the time is still set in this chart early in the morning. We can see 29:54, so it's right on the cusp there of coming in. It looks like it happens 3:02 a.m. Central Standard Time. I have to think because time has recently changed and I'm in a time zone that doesn't actually respect daylight saving, so we don't change time. So we stay the same, but everyone changes around us and it's off. Anyway, it's early morning in North America on Thursday the 20th is when the sun is going to come into Aries. All right, and this is when we're going to have more of that highlight of that Aries energy. So this is what I feel like more and more is what I've already spoken about with Mercury retrograde in Aries, Venus retrograde in Aries, Mars the ruler of Aries in post shadow in Cancer. Now we have the sun in Aries. This aspect of sovereignty was the word that came through. Sovereignty, identity, self, right? Whether that is on a socio-political economic scale or whether that is on an individual scale. Okay, and we can clearly see that in the world even now, before this is even occurring. However, it's almost like we're being rebirthed into our own individual sovereignty or national sovereignty, or learning to respect that about ourselves, but also about each other. That was relating to that Venus retrograde as well. And as we can see on like a global scale, realizing that we need to respect that about each other, right? There's a lot of shit going on that's maybe actually teaching us a lesson in terms of that, okay? So be mindful of that. However, this is kind of, like I said, the rebirth of that identity or reworking of that identity and being like, hey, you know, like it's waking us up to certain things that maybe we've been, you know, not really so much as aware of anymore, right? We've been complacent in certain things in terms of our own, not only national identity, but even just as an individual identity. It's like, well, who am I? You know, like, how do I exist in this world? What is my place here? But then that's what the sun is maybe beginning to illuminate now. As we, you know, we've seen through the veil, we're beginning to ask the questions, what the fuck is going on? And now there feels like this aspect of identity here, okay, that is now coming up. All right. And of course that can relate to, like I said, that anger, that expression, wanting to, because maybe that anger, that expression is triggering. We want to express that passion, that like, what the fuck is going on? And that brings up our identity. That brings up our true self. That brings up, we're not going to take this anymore, right? We're setting that boundary, setting that whatever, and it's bringing that up within us. It's bringing up that new masculine energy that has now been reworked, and we're in post shadow, and now we're bringing to light what we have previously looked at that needed to be reworked in that way. All right, and that's maybe more coming from a more emotional space or coming from the more of the heart in that sense as well. All right, so that's kind of March equinox, sun coming into Aries, kind of a vibe. Okay, let's move on here to Friday now, the 21st. Sorry, I'm trying to get through this because I don't know if this thing is going to crash again or what the hell is going on. All right, so Friday here, the 21st, is when we're going to have Venus here, Venus retrograde in sextile to Pluto here in Aquarius. So again, what I felt like this was like a lot of people-related stuff. But another thing that is coming through is relating to this aspect of our uniqueness and individuality. And again, it's kind of what I've said before, right? In terms of this Venus in Aries, Venus ruling Libra, but in its opposite sign of Aries, this aspect of identity, of self within our relationships within each other. But now with the sextile, how this relates to our uniqueness and individuality and giving power to that and transforming this aspect of self or identity within partnerships and relationships through understanding our uniqueness, our weirdness, our individuality in that sense. And I'm being drawn to this now, Uranus and Taurus, seeing the value in that, right? This is change for a good reason. This is changing into our true identity, our true self, and understanding that. It's an awakening of an identity, of our true identity, awakening of true identity, awakening of true self, awakening of sovereignty through that. In our own uniqueness, individuality, whatever, whether that's on an individual level or on a socio-political, economic level, right? And learning to transform and understand and maybe reinforce certain things that lay dormant for so long, all right? And beginning to understand that it's that new masculine energy that is beginning to push forward in this way as well, right? There's, we're shifting into, well, Sun now in Aries, shifting into that more masculine energy. We're shifting into, we've got Pluto in a masculine sign, Jupiter in a masculine sign, Neptune about to move into a masculine sign, right? Uranus later this year about to move into a masculine sign. All right, we're getting a lot with the more of these outer planets, as well as Saturn as well, going to move later this year into a masculine sign. We're having this shift. It's almost like this new masculine shift. We're shifting. This feminine is helping with this support now and this reworking and this transformation. And we're going to be shifting, pay attention to that, into this new type of masculine energy, right? We're shifting into this masculine stuff. It's very a masculine vibe. And again, I mean that energetically, not necessarily, men specifically, or biological men specifically, right? I'm speaking about this energetically. However, that can be reflected if you are a dude that completely reflects as totally masculine or whatever. There's people, yes, that can be a thing, okay? But it's usually, we are our physical body, but then we express in our own way, and that can exist on a spectrum, etc., right? There's no one way of being. Okay, and that's a lot of maybe what this energy is in terms of our unique individual expression. Okay, in terms of that as well, right? But it's that masculine supporting that uniqueness, that individuality, that you being you for who you are, whatever the fuck that is. All right, in whatever way that is. So I feel like that's kind of the vibe that is strongly coming through here, and is a powerful transformation, giving power to that uniqueness, that identity, that transforming, that healing into that aspect of self, right? And so it gives that transformative power to this energy with that Pluto in sextile there. All right, and maybe that's what I said before, along with that transformation and stuff that is occurring, because we are dealing with Pluto, the modern ruler of Scorpio, that deals with that transformation, right? However, there's that reworking that is existing with these retrograde energies and this post-shadow energy, etc., that is helping with this retransformation, that reworking of that energy. All right, let's move on to Saturday now, the 22nd here. This is when we're going to have our last moon quarter. I'm just trying to look here because... Okay, yeah, so it looks like it'll be Capricorn, Aries. So one thing I kind of got here that's coming through is this is cardinal energy, right? We're moving into a new kind of direction. Saturn, the ruler of Capricorn, is in Pisces. It's that malleable, that changeable type of energy, the changing that structure, new structures, new goals, etc., pushing forward in a new way, changing. It's like rebuilding that foundation, but it's reworking it in that malleable sense, reforming it in that way, that square, that push in that sense, before we're going to have that new moon in Aries, which is another cardinal sign of energy, but dealing with that aspect of identity, of self, etc., right, is something that is coming through there. Okay. We're also on this day going to have the Sun in trine to Juno retrograde. All right, so again, I feel what's coming through is that aspect of identity, of self, individual sovereignty in terms of whatever these contracts are. That expansion of awareness, now that this is retrograde, to relook, rework at whatever these contracts, committed partnerships, etc. are, and are they respecting our individuality, our sovereignty, and that within those contracts. And if not, expanding and reworking and expanding those contracts in a new direction, in a new way, growth in a new way within those contracts, whether that's away from them or whether that's changing it, expanding it in some way. I really don't, again, it's a weird energy that it's just very like expansive. It feels global as what it feels like. So, and maybe that's related to what is going on globally in terms of maybe sovereignty, etc., whether that's national sovereignty or it could boil down to individual sovereignty as well. All right. Also, we're going to have Venus here, Venus retrograde, in that quintile, to Jupiter in Gemini. Okay, so again, there's a kind of an expansion of maybe awareness in terms of, because Jupiter's conjunct Uranus's North Node, seeing this value and worth and individual uniqueness, identity, etc. Again, with the quintile, it's very feminine, behind the scenes type of energy. So maybe this is something that's an introspective awareness that is occurring, or putting in the work behind the scenes through whatever this awareness is, or to expand this awareness, or to look into this further, or research, understand, whatever. Right? Or this has already happened and is now coming to the surface. Okay? This could also revolve around aspects of fate or something that feels fated, but remember that we create our fate. All right? Something that it becomes manifest. Okay? So, but again, surrounding this aspect of identity, there could be anger and stuff that comes up through as well, illumination of that kind of thing. But I feel like with this new masculine, it's after this eclipse, it feels like it changed this energy in some way. Whatever that anger was, it's now we're in a new masculine energy. It's like that eclipse helped to clear whatever that practical shit was that was no longer serving us, what we thought was, normal and practical, is now we're moving in a new direction. And it's now whatever that shift was, has now shifted the expression of this energy. Right? It's still Aries energy. We're still dealing with those Aries theme, with those themes. We're still dealing with these energetic themes, but it has shifted in terms of its expression into maybe more of a higher expression instead of a lower expression. Or it's just shifted in that vibe, in that way, right? We're also on this day going to have the Sun here, not yet, but will come into conjunction to Venus retrograde. So the Sun will be highlighting this Venus retrograde point here as well. And with this quintile to Jupiter in Gemini, that expansion of awareness that maybe relates, like I said, to our own value and worth through our uniqueness and individuality, etc., within our relationships, our dealing with other people, etc. And I keep being drawn to like this on like a political, like country, like national level, right? I mean, we're kind of seeing that now, as like I mentioned before, this, wanting to annex Canada and Greenland and that kind of thing. But like, and of course it's the US that is doing that, and all these tariffs and all of that kind of stuff. Okay, so but with that, I feel like there's this aspect of like this sovereignty, this identity that is coming up through that. It's like this is being used in some weird way that we didn't see or fully understand. But it's like, it just seems so like what is going on is not fully what it seems that is occurring. And again, that relates to that Pisces energy, because the sun is still in an out of sign conjunction technically to Neptune, and it was conjunct that Neptune North Node on Saturn all in Pisces during this eclipse, and when all this stuff is going on, and it's just this weird fucking energy that's like, what the hell is going on? But now it's like this aspect of sovereignty, identity, whether that's national or whether that's an aspect of our own selves that is now coming up. But like I said, the energy has shifted. In some way, it has shifted. Right? And highlighting through this Venus retrograde is having a real look at what I said, that identity within certain relationships, partnerships, etc. All right. Well, that's Saturday, and that's this week. Looks interesting, to say the least. But again, I feel like with the shift into Aries and the energy shifting, we're on a different vibe now. We're on a different level through this eclipse, because of this eclipse. And now this second eclipse that is going to occur will actually be a new moon solar eclipse in Aries. So representing maybe this new aspect of identity, of self, etc. This eclipse season is now highlighting that. Something has majorly shifted here. All right. Anyways, I think that's really all I have for this week. If you have made it this far in the video, please leave a purple heart in the comments that I know you're a real one. And of course, thank you all for watching. Take care. Hope to see you in the next video. Bye for now. Bye.